Let's talk about Databricks SQL. How Databricks SQL is different than traditional SQL Server SQL. I have seen there is two main difference between those. One is traditional SQL is table first, always, versus Databricks SQL is file first. Always remember. So in Databricks, we care about the file, not the table. In traditional SQL, we create the table first, give the relationship between those, and then start pulling the data, loading the data in between those. Once we load the data, we start adding indexes for performance. We see the execution plan and have make it better later on, temp table and other stuff. These are main topics that when we work with SQL mindset. However, in Databricks world, we'll care about the file format. Um, we care about the partitioning, file partitioning. We care about the data skipping, which is like is very important topics. We'll cover this, what this is when we talk about the cost, database cost later on, and query partitioning, etc. So file first versus table first is one difference. Another is the main difference is delta table. So this is a new concept, is delta table. Let's jump into other than delta table. There is the view is similar concept that we have a SQL as well. We have the view, the same concept. It will be on the view and database world as well. Yeah. However, let's jump quickly to try to understand the delta table right here. I try to create the one quick picture. So delta table are designed for RDBMS, which has those ACID property in it. So for a corporate world, whenever we need those relational database management system, we'll create the delta table for that. So delta table is always placed on top of the data lake. So data lake is, if you do not know these data lake, delta table, or lake house, I have a separate video with that as well. I probably can add those link on with the video, so you can watch delta table, data lake, lake house, and data warehouse, and between those. But for now, you just take this. In data lake is like a ELG environment where all the file table is stored with without any relation, without any ACID property enable and things like that. But on top of it, we create those with the help of the delta table. With the help of the delta table, this data lake converted is a lake house. So let's deep dive what this delta lake really mean, right? In delta lake, there is two types of delta table in Databricks world. One is external table, another is managed table. Let's go right here and try to understand what external table and managed table is. A very simple concept. You don't have to go too much of detail what managed and external table. The only one major difference between a managed table versus external table. So external table always get the file from external source. So we place the source file in other location, different location like other cloud provider. If you remember, like sometimes ago, when we talk about architecture of Databricks, we have mentioned that storage is a separate unit for Databricks. Databricks has the UI where a workspace and notebook will be there, but in behind the scene there is a Spark engine will do all cluster work. However, that Spark doesn't even have the storage. So for the storage, we'll be having the separate maybe S3 bucket versus Google Drive location, or Azure location, right? So we're in those places we store this file. We have to manage ourselves independently. So and once we have the file on those location, notebook will will go in this way. So it will talk with the cluster, and cluster will talk with the storage. So that way, that will work. So again, when somebody talk about the external table, the external table is something the storage with the storage path. It's a separate storage path, and then we have to manage the storage location and file separately. And in comparison to the managed table is like like word says manage. So Databricks will manage those files. Those files will within the manage Databricks. The another difference is whenever we delete the table from the Databricks, the source file will delete it automatically because Databricks carry this file. However, for external, you can delete and update tables. The source file will not delete it because source file will stay in different location. So those are the difference between managed table versus external table. With that being said, let's go to our Databricks environment and start doing these managed table, external table, and some query practice, SQL query practice right here. So before I go, let me create a new notebook. For that, let me click on workspace. And then let me create the notebook. And I'm going to say this notebook is, I'm going to give my SQL demo, something like that, right? So we'll jump into, we can jump into external versus managed table. Right now, if I go to this catalog quickly, I do not have, I have only workspace and workspace one server or database. With that, I have a DB schema, default schema, and this. What I'm going to show you is I'm going to create the new catalog, new database. So let me quickly do that. For that, let me open the my notebook as well. Let me open my notebook. Let me see if I can open a new tab so I can play around this. So let me source the notebook, and my SQL demo notebook is just created right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create my catalog using the SQL syntax here. I'm going to create the new catalog, and then also I'm going to create a schema. And let me try to run this one. Let me actually change with catalog name is loan and DBO so instead of that. So I just created. I just created. So if I go here and refresh my tab, I should be able to see the loan. So loan was created within the loan is created a DBA schema. There's a default schema and information schema. Those are the default. There's no data within anything. There is no table. So what I'm gonna do next was I'm gonna have a managed table. I'm going to create the managed table within this loan database, right? So with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the data ingestion right here, and then I will be bringing the file, one file. So it's always file first, right? I'll be bringing the file using this upload file method instead of create or modify table. So the last time and last couple of time, what we did was we created or modified table from here. But for now, I'm going to upload the file to the Databricks from here. For the same thing for external table, we will be adding or bringing from the external source like Amazon S3, Salesforce, SQL Server, Google Analytics, Workday, and many more, right? We can bring from Jira, yeah, so you can bring from those as an external to create the external table. But now, to create the managed table, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to select, let me hit the weather data. This is just data. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the volume. So that volume, weather data, data file, let me name just like that. And this will be the managed volume. And what I'm going to say, I'm going to store those in loan database with the DBO schema, right? And then hit create and then upload. As soon as I uploaded that file, it will give the link right here. I can copy for now. And then if I go back to my catalog, and then if I hit the loan, and if I go to the DBO schema, the DBO has this file. So this is the file. This is not the table. This is the file. I can copy actually for now, or I have to do it in later. So there is no table yet. We have the file here. So based on this file, I can create the table. So if I go back to this diagram. Let me say, C or EAT creating manage table. Manage DABLE table. So I will be creating the manage table with the help of that file, right? So I'm bringing the small code instead of writing myself. Quickly here, I'm going to change this location. I also need to change a couple of stuff. So what is going to do here is I'm writing the Spark and read. Option are header is true because this file has the header, and also schema is true for that. So let me add the file location here, CSV file location. Let me go here and then copy this path and then replace the path here. And okay, this will be my path. And this file, where I do want to write this file was, I want to write a save as table method into loan database. And DBO schema, I want to name is weather manage table. So let me create this table quickly. So within 2 seconds, it's just created. If I go back here and then refresh my loan database, and the DBO, you see the table was just created. So this table is just like a regular other table. It's a managed table because we have the file within this Databricks. If you delete this table, drop this table, the file will drop as well. That's the main difference between external table. If I want to show you the external table, it's the same concept for the external table as well. If I do create the external table, and just do that and code. I have a script ready. Create, I'm gonna say loan is a database, DB is schema, table name is this, and using CSV file this. The location is actual external location. This is internal location, and there's another is external location. To create the external table, the internal location doesn't work. If I just replace this into right here, it doesn't work basically. You can try later on, but let me show you quickly. We have just, okay, I need to keep the, one moment, please. If I run it, it will be, it's the syntax error. Let me try to fix, I think this need a double quotes, but it doesn't work actually. So, okay. Let me choose whatever it suggests. Now you see this missing file. This file is not. It cannot even read this file. So basically, what you need to do was basically we need the external file source to create the external table. But for now, this is just a demo location. I do not have actual location. I don't have that S3 bucket or Azure bucket, Azure location. So in real world, we just need to hit this one, and then it should create the weather or external. This location was not found. That is what it said. This table should be able to create right there. Since in this episode we are talking, working our SQL, let's a little bit do a little more about the SQL. Let's read, since we have this DBO weather managed table there, let's read that table from here. Let's do run for Spark, Spark dot SQL, and so it automatically actually right there. And then this is what the select star from the weather managed table. I wanted to give this put into the data frame, and let me display the result. Display the data frame, right? DF. And then if I run this, those data is actually in there. Okay, so those data was already loaded on that table. The same thing, instead of doing this SQL, Spark or Python code, we can just do the regular SQL to get this result as well. In order to do that, let me show you this is how to use the SQL. Um, um, we can, this is important. Use SQL, SYNTX, syntax using parentheses SQL. Okay, so let me show you what that means. So if I, and this is the regular SQL, right? So let's start from loan dot, but this is regular SQL. If I do not use parentheses dot SQL, it doesn't work that way. However, if I want to run the regular SQL, I just use this parentheses and SQL. If I just do that, our regular SQL code will run appropriately. So similarly, if I do a couple of more parentheses SQL, let's see, select star from external. And what I'm going to do here was I'm going to do some group by event, and let me do average temperature. Mm, there is a temperature, right? Yeah, temperature column is there. Let me copy the temperature, and I'm gonna rename that as ABG average TMP temperature from this table, and I will need to group by event and ORDR order by average temp descending maybe. Okay, so this is our regular SQL. If I run this, it will just give the a result. Let me see what is wrong. ABG, oh ABG, not the ABE. That's the average. Alone. Oh, okay. So again, there is either um, loan DBO, it does not have an external table. We actually have the managed table. So this should be the right table name. Okay, with that, the Redder is gone, and run this query, and we got this result. This is regular SQL. Now, sometimes if you want to do the same query into, let's say, using Python API, right? So how do you do that? Let me change the same SQL to Python API. So if I want to change this Python API, what we can do here, I can paste the same code into there. Um, and what we can do is we can do the Spark, Spark dot SQL, Spark dot SQL, and then I can start parentheses, and these right here, and we can do dot show so function. So any SQL code like this, in order to run within the Spark or Python API, you just need to wrap that with the spark.sql, and that is all we need to do. This is all I want to share. So if I run this, it actually run through not the SQL but the Python API. What you have to make a change was spark.sql is something it do that magic. It's wrap that code so it run through the Python API. So SQL code, Python API, and things like that. Let me, I have something I want to cover quickly. What else? Let me quickly do some kind of join. Do you want to show the join? I'm not sure if I have something to show you a join function later on. However, in order to, let me do this. Let me copy one quick code. In here, I have the code ready, so I don't have to spend writing this code. In this code, what is happening is I will be bringing some temp data set into customer table. Also, there is a, order data set into this order table, and also I will be defining customer table with this name, data type, and etc. Also the order table with a column name and data type and etc. And I'll display this in data frame D of customer and D of order, and we'll be displaying those result is right here. If I run this quickly, you see those what was happened was it's just put this data into this variable, put this data, keep this data into this variable, and create this schema, and then those variable data inserted into this data frame and display the result right here. And if I want to do, let me see, let me see if the SQL work. If I want to, if you see this, there is a two table, like customer table and order table, and both table has a customer ID as a common key, and some of them has a null, some of them, order table has a null, and customer table has a null as well. If I want to do the inner join, let's see if that's gonna work right here using the SQL function. Select this column, rename this right here. Just do this data frame and join this data frame using user ID. Let me see if that's gonna work quickly. If it works, it's awesome. If not, then what you need to do, because is getting the error df order is not found. I think that's because we define in Python API through the Python API, and it doesn't able to fix through the SQL API. So in order to, if you want to change this syntax to the Python API, what I would do instead of going and reading those syntax again, since we have the AI already here, I'm gonna ask AI to change. Please change my SQL code to Python API, so inner zero and join will form with no issue, right? So let me see how it works. I write the code in SQL. I asked to change that code, replace the code in API, and this is what it does. So in red box is what I wrote. In yellow box, it changed, which is awesome. So what it does is it let me actually accept first, right? And then get the order D of li as O is joined with the customer li as C with the customer ID using customer ID, and do the inner join, and you wanted to select these many column. And also, change this country to SIP country and country to cost country, because this country is two different countries coming from the two different table. Let me try to run now if this is gonna work. If there is any error again, oh, look at that. This is how cool. This is really cool, right? So what I try to show you here is, if you do not know all this syntax even, just write the SQL code here and ask this Copilot or Genie to change this code into Python API, and that will work just fine. This will, So this is awesome. I think in this video going a little long, so I wanted to make a wrap up right now. What I have shown you is SQL is not going anywhere. Even like there is a Python API or Python code, we can write the SQL and convert the code as easily. Or also in Databricks, we can play around. We can perform multiple work with the SQL code. So those are something that I wanted to cover in this particular video. We'll be deep diving file mechanism in next video. But for now, take care. Bye for now.